to go for a wee.
Just because it's International Women's Day, she thinks she can come across my video. If you can interrupt my video. Hi guys, welcome back. Today I'm with Sally. We're going to be doing a video for International Women's Day. The reason I wanted to do this video is to highlight the fact that many people do have skin issues, and I wanted to ask our kind of closest women that we know, and Sally knows as well, and also a couple of female acne influencers on Instagram as well, just to get an idea of any kind of skin issues that they've had in the past, how it kind of affected their confidence, how they potentially overcame that, and just to give something that could resonate with a lot of other women as well, as I'm conscious of the fact that for quite a lot of women, their skin does have a massive influence on their confidence, and also that leads on to mental health issues potentially for a lot of people as well. So I wanted to hopefully do something to make them feel that they're not alone in this scenario. Let's get to the first message.
So the first one we've got is, I guess it took me years to be comfortable with being fair skinned. I've always felt a lot of pressure to be tanned because I guess being tanned is more common, therefore deemed more attractive. But trying to get brown skin when you're naturally fair is so bad for your skin that it's just not worth it. It was literally only the last 3 or so years that I started embracing it, and now I actually feel fair-skinned women who aren't trying to be something else look really beautiful. So I have a lot more respect for my skin now in that sense, and look after it in the sun a lot more than I used to. I guess quite a lot of people relate to that as well, because everyone always seems that to be tanned, it makes everything look better around it.
Yeah.
You shouldn't have to feel that you have to be tanned all the time, especially if you don't naturally tan in the sun, because some people do go to extra lengths like doing sunbeds or even buy like injections online and everything, which is such extremes. But
that's a really important point, because the bad part of this is the fact that we are potentially pushing a lot of younger girls towards sunbeds and spending excessive amounts of time in the sun, which is just inevitably not only going to age your skin, but also you're putting yourself at risk, and a very high risk of skin cancer as well. So it's really not worth it.
It's not an enjoyable experience either,
except your complexions, and we all come in different colours. So ultimately, it really doesn't affect your appearance, in my opinion, to anywhere near the degree that I think a lot of people have been driven to believe. So this next one is from Samantha, who runs the Vegan Acne Sufferers Instagram page. And I reached out to her just to get a feel or a comment in terms of her experiences and her story, not only for starting up the page for people with acne and inspiring those individuals, but also her own personal experience, really. So it's very interesting to get her response. Now, to give it a bit of a background to her page, she's actually really kind of entertaining. I really enjoy following her because she not only provides quite comical posts in terms of people with acne, but she gives really good advice for people's skin, and not just for acne sufferers, but in general as well, for any kind of conditions. And I've learned, I've only probably followed her a couple of months, but I've learned so much on the things that she's said, and to add humour into it is a really special ability to have. And she's done incredibly well to have such great complexion without having to continuously stay on birth control pill and the hormones that doctors tend to put a lot of girls on, which can cause a host of issues. And it's not particularly healthy to be on artificial hormones for just the rest of your life so you can avoid acne. So definitely look at her page and give her a follow, because she is really good at what she does. So let's get to her message. But she says, I developed acne at a transitional time in my life as I entered high school. None of my friends seemed to have acne. I felt alone and became incredibly self-conscious about my appearance, especially when people made negative comments. I had a hard time making friends, and due to my insecurities, I became defensive and isolated. I desperately wanted to be accepted. Acne was affecting me so much I would have done anything, taken anything to get rid of it. So I went on the birth control pill as an acne treatment. When my acne came back after 6 years, I think it affected my confidence even more than it had the first time. I felt ugly, inadequate, like something was wrong with me. My skin and body were not working properly, and I felt like the only one I knew who this was happening to. Everything else in my life felt worse because I was always feeling bad and obsessing about my skin. I felt like I was doing everything right, and yet my skin was getting worse. plus I was constantly thinking negative things about myself. It was exhausting and it wasn't making me feel better. I didn't want to keep feeling that way, so I became committed to healing myself holistically, which meant I wanted to address how acne was affecting my mental health too. I created an Instagram account where I shared my story, sharing my experience with others, learning that I wasn't alone, talking about my acne openly and not with loaded terms like good, bad or ugly. This allowed me to destigmatize my skin issues for myself. I started seeing my acne not as a part of me, but apart from me. I realized that my acne had nothing to do with me internally or my worth, it was just acne. I had to relearn how to have some compassion for myself, my skin, my body. Every day since, I've tried to see myself with eyes of love, and some days are easier than others. That's a really good one, isn't it?
Yeah, that is.
That is fantastic. I was really impressed with that. I think there's a few points I'd like to make on that because there's so much within that. Firstly, the last point she's made, which I think is fantastic, is the fact that she's made leaps in terms of managing her self-confidence with her skin issues and not allowing her skin issues to completely define her whole lifestyle, her personality, her body and so forth. And but she's also said some days are easier than others, and I think that's a really important point for people in terms of mental health, is no matter how confident people perceive to be, there's some days where your confidence is incredibly good and there's other days where it really gets you down, and and part of accepting that will have a massive effect on maintaining your self-confidence and your mental health, I think.
I think as well, when you start to realise that not everyone notices it as much as you do yourself, when you have it obviously on your own skin, then it makes things slightly easier. And rather than constantly comparing yourself to other people's skin and what they look like under makeup and all this sort of stuff, it kind of starts to get the ball rolling to make it feel a little bit easier with looking at yourself every day.
Yeah, and I think people tend to be so wrapped up in their own issues in terms of their appearance that they don't realise is the person looking at them isn't looking at their skin. The likelihood is they're dealing with their own issues.
Hoping they're not looking at theirs.
And they're hoping that you're not looking at theirs. And, that's incredibly common.
So, the year I turned 40, my skin went from being good to having a condition called rosacea. This was across both my cheeks. I went to the doctors and I was given medication. The problem I came across was the offer of natural products was so minimal, and the only product I could find was Dermalogica, which was very expensive, and I feel that it wasn't very effective. At the time, this made me feel very self-conscious and very unhappy. The time did pass within the year, but not sure if this was an environmental change or the products. Since then, I have used a variety of products, always thinking that will do. However, for the last week, I have been using Aqneeq's products and can say the difference is impressive at 52, and I am used to putting my moisturiser and feeling greasy, but within the hour my face feels dry. Whereas this week it has felt moisturised all day without feeling greasy, which is great for me as I hate the feeling of greasy skin. I've also noticed a change on my cheeks with the redness that I usually hide under makeup. So, you can see that this is a different target group, because obviously this one is involved with someone who's a little bit older, but it does show that it's not just your teenage years into your 20s that acne or any type of skin condition can be a problem, which is quite important, I guess, because different products come into action and what people are used to using and what type of effects they have on their skin, obviously, because everyone is different.
And I think it's, like you say, it's interesting, and it's good that I feel quite happy about the fact that I've got a good mix of age groups in a lot of these responses. And on your point, I think for women in particular, the hormone changes and the fluctuations that an average woman will go through in adulthood is far more significant than a male will. A male's testosterone, for example, will gradually decline at say 1% per year after 30. But it's not any real significant change there. Whereas for women, month to month, they experience quite a lot of large hormone fluctuations up to menopause, where you again go through huge hormone changes.
Or having kids and stuff like that.
Or having kids, exactly. That's a very good point. So these skin issues in adulthood tend to happen a little bit more with the women, and it does tend to affect their confidence. I appreciate the plug on the Aqneeq products as well, because we have I've recently just been trying to test the products on other people at the minute and just get an idea that of how they feel about the final product, its texture, its smell, how well it's worked for them. And I will be doing a video next week on myself where I purposely gave myself acne by stopping the Aqneeq and then starting it again to see how quickly it would clear that acne. So I will release that next week. Okay, so this next one is also another acne influencer on Instagram that I reached out to, and her whole page is again dedicated to people who have acne and kind of keeping an open discussion about the skin condition and hopefully giving people confidence. So I really admire what she's doing as well. And her acne page is called Skin with Soos. I think I'm saying that correctly. She's actually from Netherlands, and I really enjoy her page as well. And her skin's like incredibly glowing. Like if you look at her page, you can see that she's obviously clearing up her acne at the minute, but she has this kind of glow to her skin that I find incredibly impressive. So however she does that, I would be really curious to know. And she does her hair videos and so on because she's got great hair, really. But again, her channel is incredibly aesthetic and she lines out her page really nicely. I was really well thought out as well, isn't it? Really well thought out. I was really impressed with her page. And she's actually incredibly new on the platform, but she's built up quite a lot of followers quite quickly. So check her out as well and really appreciate her response. So let's go to it. So she says, I got acne after I quit my birth control, which is, you can see a common theme here. It's been 2 years since I quit and had ups and downs in my acne. Since a year, it's gone really bad because of stress. Since then, I've been struggling a lot and haven't found the cure yet. When my acne got worse, my confidence dropped. I remember crying every day and feeling so ugly. I hated my skin. I tried loads of different things and nothing seemed to work. I repeatedly used trial and error, and this made me realize I cannot feel this way about myself all the time anymore. I felt like something needed to change. Then I went online and found out so many people were struggling and I was not alone. I was scared starting this Instagram page, but I wanted to show people that they are not alone and that it's normal to have acne. Of course it sucks, I hate it sometimes, but I'm not letting it get to me the way it did, and I'm not hiding it anymore. Acne teaches you patience, confidence, and kindness towards yourself. I really learned to love myself for me and not how I look. I was always so picky on myself and I needed to look flawless every day. Now I'm not looking for any other people's approval anymore and it's the nicest feeling ever.
That last bit was really nice.
It was really nice. I was really impressed at how she talked about how it affected her confidence and it essentially affected her mental health. And again, it's a similar scenario of a lot of her self-confidence was centered around this kind of flawless skin expectation, which for the vast majority of people you're probably never going to achieve, unfortunately. And it's just a kind of an expectation that's been set with photoshops on Instagram and photo editing and flawless lighting and heaps of makeup, and it's just you're never going to meet that expectation. But it's really upsetting to hear that she was crying every day and the fact that she said that she felt so ugly. And that's incredibly upsetting because it's pretty much common knowledge to anyone who doesn't have acne that having acne doesn't make you ugly. Yeah. Like it's not, you don't just get acne and then you all of a sudden are an ugly individual. It doesn't quite work like that.
Even just in that paragraph though, you can tell the difference in how she talks about herself towards the end. And you can see that she's come leaps and bounds compared to what she was when she was crying every day. Exactly. Basically, once a month, the week of my woman's time period, I break out in spots on my face without fail every month. I've taken years to find a solution to combat this. I'm happy that your face cream will hopefully prevent this, but nothing stops it. Many other women go through the same.
Yeah.
So we've had quite a few conversations about this before, where quite a lot of women struggle with their skin during their time of the month, because obviously all the hormones that are being pumped around your body and the stress that it can cause your skin. It tends to be the week leading up to it, and then you get all the other symptoms that you tend to get with your period. But it can be a very uncomfortable time for your skin.
So I think an important point she's put on there as well is, other than obviously plugging the products as well again, which I massively appreciate, is that she's taken years to find a solution, and I think that's really important, because this is again a very common theme that anyone suffering from acne or any type of skin condition, but I think in particular acne, is that they are constantly trying to find a solution, and it just never, for the majority of people, they never really get to a point where they've actually fully cleared their skin up. And I find that incredibly sad, and I think it's because there's not only a lot of misinformation online about acne, and also the fact that the people or the companies, and this tends to be the much larger companies than myself, they will sell products to acne sufferers because they know they're an incredibly vulnerable group. You know, people with acne, as one individual said in one of the previous messages, is I would have tried anything, I would have done anything to clear my skin up, and therefore she probably would have spent endless amounts of money, endless amounts of time, you know, using products that are not only incredibly expensive but don't do anything for her skin, and potentially quite a lot of these products will make her skin worse. Okay, so the next one says, I was always insecure about my skin around my chin area during a lot of my teenage years and into my 20s, especially around summertime, where it was normalized to wear less makeup. But over time I learned to use products that suited my skin type and what to avoid when it came to food and drinks that would trigger outbreaks. So firstly on that, I thought there was a few good points I'd like to touch on. The first one is, this is one of the first scenarios where they've said that they looked at their food and drinks, and that's a big trigger for people, regardless of what the scientific studies say, because a lot of it's very inconclusive. I do believe that looking at particular trigger foods will do quite a significant improvement to your skin, particularly foods that cause a high level of inflammation, which is only going to make your skin worse. Common ones are obviously dairy products and chocolate, fatty foods, and so on. But also, she's also touched on makeup as well, which is a good point. It's the fact that I'm assuming she's had to use makeup to cover up her spots, and in the summertime where it's almost kind of expected that you would wear less makeup, I'd imagine because of sweating, the heat, and a kind of a fashion at the time. Pressure to look good as well. And pressure to look good, and there's pressure to look good with minimal makeup in. Yeah. So that's really common now. That's almost as bad as like the push for loads of makeup. It's just as bad as the push for like, oh, you've got to look good without makeup. You know, you can never really win.
I don't think I've ever massively struggled with my skin, but I do remember periods where it was pretty bad. I'd never go out without makeup, even to the shop or just in front of the house. One time I got a fringe just to cover a spot. I don't feel like it was talked about as an issue at the time, it was just to be covered. I was feeling more like something was wrong with me rather than like it's something that needed to be treated. Like people would look past the spots for years, just the word acne made me feel uncomfortable. If you want to go more into that, let me know, but I'm finding it difficult to talk about it like this. Can't tell you about overcoming it because I don't think that I ever did. I was just lucky to eventually get better skin. I still don't love it though, and never felt that good about it.
It's an interesting one, this one.
Yeah.
Because where we've had some of the messages where they have said, you know, this is how I used to feel, and, you know, regardless of whether they cleared their acne up or so on, or any of these kind of skin conditions, they found a way to build up their confidence and so on. But this individual sounds as if they're kind of still in that mentality, to say.
In that rut. And
it is slightly upsetting, to say the least, really. But she's raised on quite a few interesting points there. So some of the links she's gone to is she's grown her hair to cover spots, you know, and she said one spot. So she
it's quite
essentially grew her hair,
lengths, yeah, you know, to change her appearance, just to adjust to that.
Yeah, so this is to the degree that it's bothered her. And she said that she never really kind of overcame it or kind of improved her skin. She just kind of grew out of that stage. And I think that does apply actually to a lot of people as well. Is that particularly for teenagers, they go through this huge hormonal time, they get really bad skin, and then following that, they just have to hope that they get out of that period. Yeah. You know, and that's not ideal. I really hope that we can get to a point where by using good quality products and listening to good information, that when teenagers do get their acne, they can essentially keep it at bay, you know, control it and so on. So it's just one thing less to worry about when you're going into your high school and you're hanging around with your friends and you're dating and so on, instead of just going through, okay, these next 5 years I'm going to have terrible confidence. That's ultimately going to stick with me as well, because this confidence issue with her skin has still stuck with her, despite the fact that it sounds like she doesn't really have the same issues as she did. Okay, so the next one is, I think my troubles are very hormonal. My skin is awful around my time of the month. You try everything under the sun to make it better because you feel low already. It makes you feel lower. So you put more makeup on and more concealer, which probably just makes your skin worse. I think for girls or women, because good skin is shown by influencers, you feel like you're different because you've got an uneven skin tone, hence why you buy all these products that have been promoted. Your face is the first thing people see, and if you've broken out, it does lower your self-confidence for sure. I think you overcome it just with time, really. My skin is at its best when I'm eating well and cleansing properly after a training session. This does wonders to your confidence, as normally dependent on your skin, I'm dependent on whether I wear makeup. You also feel the best version of you when you're eating well and in a consistent routine. Okay, there's a few points here, isn't it? This is an interesting one. So again, it's the common theme that around your time of the month, skin's worse because of your hormonal factors and so on.
It's just about curbing that sweet tooth as well, isn't it? Because it tends to be a lot of sugary foods that bounce off then having bad skin.
Exactly that. And that raise in insulin from your sugar foods and your high glycemic foods will cause testosterone to go even higher during your cycle, and that will make your skin worse. So it's really important to avoid that. Again, she said that she's done everything under the sun. So again, it's a common theme that it really worries me how much money people have historically spent on curing this one skin condition, and how much time they have potentially wasted, and the damage it's done to someone's self-confidence as well, because I obviously encourage self-confidence regardless of whether you have acne or not, or any other type of skin condition. But ultimately, that's a lot easier said than done. It's probably a lot easier to clear up your skin than it is to build up your self-confidence when you feel your skin is bad.
So the next one is, so I've had problems with my skin ever since being around the age of 10 to 11, when puberty starts and it's all little shindigs. It wasn't just always my face, it used to be on my upper arms and back too, which made me feel so self-conscious. I tried so many different skin creams, washes, prescription creams, and then the contraceptive pill, which is now kind of keeping it at bay. Don't get me wrong, I still get quite spotting over the past near year of COVID and having to wear masks all day at work. It has made my skin and me feel like I'm 11 again. It used to get me pretty down, thinking that everyone was looking at me, trying to cover it up as best as I could with foundation, when in reality it just focused on them more. It's quite rare nowadays that I actually do wear makeup, but I've just grown to realise people really aren't that bothered about it. When you're growing up, people do make comments, but it's literally just because they have nothing better to do. That's true.
Yeah.
But even now, still as a 26-year-old, I get spots, and that's just something I've learnt to deal with. I feel comfortable and confident in my own skin to wear strappy dresses and shirts and show some spots, and it doesn't faze me in the slightest anymore about people seeing my face with no foundation. Learn to love your skin, and confidence is key. Yeah, I quite like that one. It also highlights as well that it did get pretty bad, and from the age of 10 to 11 into your 20s, that is a quite long period of time, especially a mouldable age. And mention as well that people can be very mean. You just have to learn that, as hard as it is, people that don't know you personally, you shouldn't take it personal. So people that are making these comments is only harmful to you, so it's best just to not listen to them. And I think it's more important what you think of yourself and how you look compared to what other people think of yourself.
And I think you're never going to change, unfortunately, what people say to you. You know, people have their own words and actions that they choose to make, and the only thing you can do is the only thing you can change is your response to those words, really, unfortunately. And that's much easier said than done when people are quite abusive towards you.
But once you learn the knack of it, it gets a little bit easier.
Yeah, and that comes with adulthood and maturity and so on. I think it's fantastic that she said that she's grew confidence. She seems that she's an incredibly confident individual now, despite having her previous skin issues, and she still obviously gets it today from what she said. So that's really fantastic to hear that she's managed to build that confidence. And I think there's a degree of passiveness in that you will gradually just build up confidence as you grow up, and other things become slightly more important than your skin outside of teenage years. And also there's probably a lot of active effort there as well to overcome your own confidence issues, because everyone has something. I've never met
people's comments as well,
and other people's comments. So the next one says, one thing I struggle with my skin is to do with my PCOS, which, if you don't know, stands for polycystic ovary syndrome. Because of my hormone imbalance, I get hairs that grow around my jaw and my neck. Nothing drastic, but because of my skin colour, it's more noticeable. The hair itself doesn't really bother me anymore because I've learned to embrace it, but it's the dark scarring it leaves around my jaw and neck that really bothers me. I've tried ingrown hair treatments, but it's like applying nail varnish remover to my face, and it smells like white spirit. So I stopped that. I'd like to be able to have laser hair removal, but even that can be hit and miss with darker skin. Okay, so it's an interesting one, slightly different than the other ones. I did actually do a video on PCOS previously, so check that out if you're curious about that particular condition. And she said it's the hair growth in particular that she struggled with, and the treatments, from the sounds of it, for her aren't as catered towards dark skin. So it's interesting she said that as well. And it is, with these conditions, it's always unfortunate that you always have to weigh up
the pros and cons of it.
Yeah, is this gonna benefit my kind of insecurities, or or is this gonna cost me lots of money, not really work very well, and potentially give me more insecurities? So I really empathise with those scenarios.
She mentioned the smell of the cream as well that she was applying, which is quite an aggressive scent, to say the least. So the amount of chemicals that must be in it, and to think about how that might be damaging long term as well. Yeah,
and I've actually seen a growth of influences for women in particular that have dealt with hair growth and so on, and kind of destigmatised the facial hair growth and PCOS and so on. So that's interesting to see, and I think that's a positive move.
I started getting acne in year 5. It would make me feel really self-conscious, and I'd feel like everyone would be staring at me, so I became really shy. Wouldn't get involved as much and avoided any eye contact. I struggled with acne throughout high school as well. The way I would cope with this was by covering my spots up with tons of makeup, which wasn't the right thing to do and only made it worse. As I've got older, I still suffer with breakouts, but I've learnt not to stress as much over this, and I now understand that there are loads of people that suffer with the same thing, and I'm not alone. So yeah, quite a lot of these have shown that quite a lot of girls go to makeup to not solve the problem of the acne, but it's
a quick fix, isn't it?
Yeah,
to hide
it.
Because ultimately I do empathise that it's quite difficult to find the cure for acne. Takes a lot of years of research and a knowledge of good quality products for you. So, as you said, and again, she says it made her feel shy. As you said in a previous comment, teenage years are very formative years for people. So if something affects your confidence, that can potentially affect your confidence in adulthood as well. And sometimes it can take some time to build up that confidence as you become an adult as well. But she has said, as I've got older, I still suffer with breakouts, but I learn not to stress as much. So this is, fantastic. She said, I'm not alone, which is a very important point, and it's the biggest point of this video, is that again, every single person I asked had some form of skin issue. We've all had it, and it's not as it might feel like the end of the world for one individual, but and another person doesn't even know it's on you.
Yourself tends to be your biggest critic as well.
Yeah. So thanks for watching that, guys. I hope that resonated with a lot of women as well. The key factors here are many people suffer with skin issues, particularly women in adulthood and so on, with acne. And you aren't alone in this condition or these insecurities that you have with your skin. It's not the end of the world, really, as much as it might feel like it is. And unfortunately the confidence does come from within, as opposed to just relying on your skin getting clear or solving your issues so then you can finally be confident. It doesn't often work that way. It will certainly help, but confidence is very much trained and learned over time. But if you enjoyed this video, again, please check out Sally's hair channel. She's really good at what she does. I know it's probably not the most relevant to this video.
If you need it, just in case.
But she's the one that's just keeping this looking good throughout lockdown as well. But again, I've set up a pre-order page for the products if you're interested and don't want to spend £200 on a starter set, but just want simple, natural products that will help your skin, and they're cruelty-free, near enough all natural. They're just finishing the final part of their safety testing at the minute. So if you sign up for the pre-order, I'll give a discount for you guys just to reward you for your first order. And if they don't work, I'll go cry in the corner, but I'm very confident that they will. So check that out, and if you could like or share the video, again, I would massively appreciate that as well. That would really help me get this kind of message out if we can. Bye guys.
Bye.